welcome to the Tea and a Buddy podcast. I'm Dominic.
And I'm Erica.
Today's episode is about American TV I'd never heard of before coming to America. And it'll actually surprise you, there was quite a list, actually.
I am surprised, actually.
Considering,
I mean, I know I have mentioned this.
You've mentioned this several times.
Several podcasts, but the show, My Wife and Kids.
Man.
You guys.
Watching My Wife and Kids, man.
I don't even know how popular that show was over here, because that sort of like family format, like King of Queens or Everybody Loves Raymond, that type of family format show was already kind of not that popular by the time that show came on over here.
Yeah.
And I have no idea how long it lasted, like how many seasons or anything.
I have no idea. It was...
So the fact that you got like that show, and then what's the other one that you told me with Margatti? Oh no, you didn't get that one.
I didn't get that one. No.
Oh, that's right.
I only saw that over here, and that's actually one I didn't put on the list because it's, you know, it's kind of like something that was just like there's so many.
I can't even remember the title of that.
Still Standing.
Still Standing. I think that came out around the same time as My Wife and Kids, though, and it was the same kind of thing. You know, the husband and wife, and they have kids, and you know all the.
Oh, I just remembered
all the
show
zany situations they find themselves in. You know, it's like the same kind of thing. It's just like it's been done to death. You know? So I was really shocked that you had that show in Britain. So I'm interested.
There's a lot of because the thing is. In Britain, it's kind of like, you know, I think it was you or someone who was like, "Oh, you got that over there, yeah," and it's like, yeah, we get everything. Yeah, we got everything post 1982 when Channel 4 started up. They were just importing shows from the States. Yeah. It was Hill Street Blues. It was.
I used to like that when I
Hill
was
Street Blues. I'm trying to think of all the sitcoms, all the drama shows were coming on Channel 4. All the cop shows, all the sports shows, all the medical dramas. Yeah. ER was a big hit.
Yeah. I mean, something like ER.
Friends, obviously. Friends was just a massive hit.
ER and Friends, they're like the McDonald's of TV shows, you know. It doesn't surprise me that they would get them everywhere. Like, they were huge over here.
Yeah.
But something like, you know, Still Standing or My Wife and Kids or...
Oh, My Wife and Kids, I think, came on Channel 4 too, or E4 or something.
Just like these little shows that... Actually, even King of Queens, to be real. I mean, I know they rerun
I got you
Yeah.
into it.
Yeah.
I said, it's actually quite a funny show when you watch it.
I didn't watch that show when it was on, no, because that format was kind of dead already.
It's not dead over here. No. It's still they still keep jump starting it.
It's not, but it is.
It's an old-fashioned format.
That show, what is it? That
show with Matt LeBlanc?
No, that one that's on now with Tim Allen.
I was going to say Home Improvement because that was a show.
That was popular.
Home Improvement was popular. Last Man Standing.
Last Man Standing.
Yeah.
That show. It's like. What is that show? I mean, who watches? Do any of you watch that show?
Last Man Standing, you know.
Reba, yeah. I mean, Reba. I don't know how popular that was either.
I think it was only popular in Texas.
I did vaguely watch it, but yeah, it was very kind of
Texas-centric.
Yeah.
Texas-centric, yeah.
The type of humor and everything, you know, is familiar to us.
Well,
so
yes.
it's just like, yeah. But across America, I don't know how popular that show is. I can't imagine that it was that popular.
Well, there's that. It's not on my list, but that was one I'd never heard of before
Reba?
I came.
Yeah. Did you know who Reba McEntire was?
I don't think so. Yeah, country music is not that huge in Britain. It's not like mainstream as it is over here. I mean, but I mean, this is Texas, so I've got to account for that. If I was living in California, maybe people would be like, "Oh, country music, nah."
Yeah, but I don't know.
Garth Brooks, for example, you know, he's not a show I'd never heard of, but I'd never heard of him before I came over here, you know.
You never heard of Garth Brooks?
I'd never heard of Garth Brooks before I came over here.
Shut up!
No. No, you assume I did because
No, I will not shut up.
No, it was because you were like, oh, Garth Brooks, because he was singing "If Tomorrow Never Comes," and I was like, oh, I've heard that song, but Ronan Keating had covered it.
You guys, I swear to you that things come out on this podcast that have never come out in real life.
Never come out before.
You've never told me that you never heard of Garth Brooks before you came here. I thought you said, oh yeah, but not really. You know, yeah, I've heard of him, but I don't know. He's not that popular. I thought you'd heard of him. You had never, ever heard of Garth Brooks.
No.
Oh my God. My mind is absolutely blown right now.
I'm sure I said that to you. No, I probably said, because it came on Tomorrow Never Comes, because you were saying to me like, oh, Friends in Low Places, Thunder Road, naming all these. I was just like, no. And then you said, if Tomorrow Never Comes, I was like, oh, if it is Tomorrow Never, you were like, yeah, that's him. Yeah, you have heard of him. I'm like, no, not his version.
No, I don't remember.
Not his version. It was Ronan Keating, and pretty much bank you if.
Okay, this is a separate podcast. This is a podcast that we need to do, where you need to reveal to me American music artists. What about Boyz II Men?
Oh, I mean, it's not. No.
Oh my God!
It's not my kind of genre. It's not. Again, it's not my genre.
You guys, this is what
living in the '60s.
This is what this podcast is all about. Dominic and I have these kinds of conversations. Clearly, we've never had this conversation off mic before, but we have these kinds of conversations all the time, and so that's why we started this podcast, because
we're having a conversation on air, live.
Because it's very interesting to find out. And it's, I don't know if you're representative of the whole British population.
I'm the only if you're like the ambassador.
Or if maybe you're the only person in Britain that never heard of Garth Brooks. I mean, it's possible.
I mean, I could ask my friends in low places.
You never heard of Garth Brooks, and now you've seen him in concert.
I've seen him in concert, so there you go. I was educated, boy. No.
What about George Strait?
No. I haven't heard George Strait. Yeah, I mean, country music. I mean, it's like
you guys just get ready for a new podcast.
You're talking to me about country music. It's like, I'm like, Willie Nelson I'd heard of.
Yeah.
But Garth Brooks and I mean, maybe I'd had, but I just never paid attention, so it just went out of my mind, because it's like country music isn't my like genre, George Strait, no. And you're like, oh, these guys are like huge over here, huge. And it's like, well, it's in the country music world they are.
Yeah.
In like if you're talking about the Beatles or, the Rolling Stones or anything like that, that's kind of like a general kind of thing. Country music fans may never have heard, like diehard ones who are into country may never have heard of the Beatles or the Rolling Stones.
Get a life. Of course they have.
Maybe. You don't know.
No. Yeah, if you guys ever want to have a conversation with Dominic about music, you're better off with like sticking to classic rock, like music of
classic
the 1960s.
1960s
some
to
folk
like
music because of his dad.
And
but if you want to talk about
some new wave.
But if you want to talk about any music in general, just like all the genres, not all the genres, because I'm not so big on like heavy metal or like what is it?
No, there's
ska.
stuff.
There's like some. I'm not big on
and
that.
Also,
I'm
big into like orchestral and movie scores and stuff like that too. So.
If you want to talk about general music, talk to me. If you want to talk about classic rock and like slightly more specific genres, talk to Dominic, because clearly, I mean, he didn't even know who Garth Brooks was. So anyway, getting onto your list.
Getting onto my list. And this is probably going to shock you too. My first one. My first American show.
Yeah, let's hear it.
When I came over here the first time and you were like, oh, have you seen this? I was like, nope.
Yeah.
And I think
it's not really going to shock me, I don't think, television shows.
I don't know. Yeah, I Love Lucy. It.
What?
Yeah.
You never heard of I Love Lucy?
Okay,
that does shock me. I Love Lucy is huge and classic.
I mean,
they show that all over the world.
Not in Britain.
They
not in my house, they didn't.
They do. They must.
They must know that. I think they did at some point, but I never caught it. No, shows I had heard of, like from that era, I Dream of Jeannie and Bewitched. Those were like...
those are slightly later.
Slightly later, yeah, but that was the earliest. I don't think... and also, I know a show that you'd never heard of.
Wow.
Sergeant Bilko with Phil Silvers. Phil Silvers was huge in Britain. I think he starred in a Carry On.
Sounds slightly familiar. I don't know.
It was a sitcom about... I think it was during the World War II, maybe. He was like a sergeant. Phil Silvers played him, and Phil Silvers has been in movies. I mean, if you know who Phil Silvers is... then, you know.
You never heard of
I'd never heard of I Love Lucy. I'd never seen an episode before I came over here.
What about, you didn't know who Lucille Ball was then?
Oh, I might have actually heard of her.
Yeah.
Because of, she was owner of Desilu, which actually started up Star Trek.
I don't know if
apparently Star Trek had her to thank for being kept on the air. So I did hear of her, but I thought she was just an executive. I didn't think she was like some big star, you know?
I probably
Love Lucy.
would not have been shocked about any other show that you could probably mention.
But yeah, no, I was like, I Love Lucy.
One.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe I was just living a sheltered life, man. Maybe I was out there in the country. I was in my cave. I was digging, you know?
Because there used to be
I was like Tom Hanks in Castaway.
There used to be a thing that they said that that was something like there's never a time during the day or night that I Love Lucy is not showing somewhere in the world.
I mean, it was probably the first sitcom to be put into syndication.
I have no idea if that's factual
or reruns or anything, but I don't know. I mean, it was
probably the first like
they
super
were quite
huge.
they were quite shrewd. Both her and Desi Arnaz at like getting shows done, you know, and putting them out there and making as much money as possible.
Oh my god!
But no, I'd never seen an episode, and I've seen it, and I mean, you know, it's funny, you know, it's
right, Paramount Plus. You just heard it with your own ears. Because if you guys don't know, Paramount Plus has I Love Lucy on there. Not all the episodes, apparently. But,
well, the ones that the ones that have survived, I guess.
But, you know, we need some sort of
that
deal.
That was from 1951 to 57.
Where we can show Dominic all the I Love Lucy's. And...
There you go. I could do a reacting to I Love Lucy.
Yes! Oh, God. That's made me really sad. That's like my favorite TV show.
It's my favorite TV show ever in the world. What? No, I've shown you things at your favorite TV show now. Yeah.
All right, let's have it. What's next?
Gunsmoke.
I had never seen that until the
from
last
1955 to 75. Well, no, I mean I'd never heard of it. I'd never seen it. You know.
Yeah.
It's like a Western series. Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
And it was kind of in the same vein as those like drama shows that came out.
It ran for like 20 years or something. Like
from 1955 to 1975. Yeah, so that was quite a, you know, for a show like that.
Yeah,
it shows you how popular it was.
And I think James Arnett was Arnett, isn't that his name?
Sorry,
was in every. I think he was in every series.
Every episode?
I don't know about every episode, but I think he was in...
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'd never heard it, but yeah, you... Talking about Gunsmoke and everything. Nope. You know, never heard of that, you know.
I mean, yeah, I mean, you know, you guys have a lot of your own TV, so it doesn't really...
I was watching a lot of our own TV, too, to be fair.
Yeah.
I mean, there was some stuff I'd seen from America... But I was mostly watching what was coming on BBC One or BBC Two or ITV.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'd watch Channel 4 occasionally, but...
I mean, that's fair enough, because, you know, we have gotten...
And it's kind of like the same over here, but it's like the most popular shows that came out over here. And I mean, a lot, you know, when I was like looking into it, I was like, oh yeah, you haven't heard of like British shows and stuff like that. And then I'd realize, oh, the reason being is because you remade them.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Sanford and Son, and, you know, and it's like, you didn't even know that you'd remade them, you know? That you didn't even know that it was, like, something that was on British TV.
No, like, the more...
All in the Family was basically...
the more historical ones are the ones that would come on PBS, you know?
Yes.
The ones with slightly, like, some sort of educational... I mean, if you want to say educational, you know...
Yeah.
You could call it sort of educational because it was set in a period, so you could learn a little bit about that period.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, I don't know. I think they had things like The Last of the Summer Wine and, they
that
did
was just old guys knocking about Yorkshire.
Yeah, I mean, they did show just some, like, very random sitcoms. But I never
Monty Python is like the as British comedy goes, Monty Python is like the most well-known thing, and it's the most widely quoted and stuff like that.
In America, you mean?
In America, yeah. Yeah. Because it's like, I haven't met an American yet who doesn't know it. Yeah. And doesn't like go, oh, I love British comedy. I love Monty Python. And it's just like, yeah, that's not we have lots of it. Yeah. It's like, whereas the export culture from America is like, show everything from Why My Wife and Kids Mun to, whatever. Yeah. It's like, over here, you only got like, Are You Being Served and Keeping Up Appearances and Monty Python. And that was it. Or Monty Python.
I mean, I don't know, because I'm not the person to ask, because I'm like you. You weren't watching American stuff. I wasn't watching the British stuff that came on over here. But there has always been an audience over here for British programming.
Oh, yes.
So, I mean, you'd have to talk to probably maybe some of my mom's generation or older to find out, like, I know that they got Faulty Towers.
Oh, yeah.
And Absolutely Fabulous.
Oh, yeah,
My stepdad used to watch those.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we've gotten quite a bit more than I am aware of, as far as just at some point in history,
In recent-ish times, within the last 30 years, Only Fools and Horses has, like, come up as, like, the biggest sitcom ever produced by the BBC.
And I don't have any idea whether that ever came on over here.
I think it must have. They must have tried to sell it over here, and they've tried to remake it several times, but it's never got past pilots. And it's like, the premise is a little bit like, and it's like, why hasn't it? And that's something I've talked about before and I've mentioned before. Why have, because you could remake Steptoe and Son as Sanford and Son, and it became a hit. The Alf Garnett show, I can't remember what it was called. Till Death Do Us Part, that's what it was called.
One Foot in the Grave.
It was remade over here as All in the Family.
Yeah.
Man About the House was remade as Three's Company.
Yeah.
They all kind of became successful shows.
Yeah. Men Behaving Badly was remade as Men Behaving Badly, though.
Yeah, it was, and I mean, it didn't do that well.
No. I'm surprised.
There you go. We were just talking about that, the British laddish culture and
Yeah.
It was all against that. And over here, it's kind of like, nah.
Yeah. I'm surprised that One Foot in the Grave has never made it to PBS.
It was remade.
Yeah, I know it was remade. But let us know if you guys are loyal PBS watchers. Yeah, whether One Foot in the Grave ever aired on PBS, because I really don't know. I mean, that would have been what, in the late 80s, early 90s?
Early 90s.
Just
early to mid 90s, yeah, because I don't know how long it would take for like a show to like start showing over here.
Yeah, I have no idea.
I know it got remade, so obviously it was kind of like one of those things that they showed on PBS and they were like, oh, we need an idea for someone. And it was Bill Cosby.
Yeah, they sure shot.
Yeah, and it was called Cosby, and that's the next show I've got on my list is something that only America did. I think.
What's that?
It's like when they made a show, it was a show, and it was called that guy's name, that star of the show, and it's like that's never been kind of done in Britain.
But that
unless it was a variety show,
but that wasn't his name in the show. That wasn't the character's name.
For example, the Andy Griffith Show.
Yeah,
he was Andy
Taylor.
Yeah, the sheriff of Maybury.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the Andy Griffith Show. It's like, why don't you call it Maybury PD? They did. After a while, after the Andy Griffith Show got cancelled.
Yeah.
They finished it. They started Maybury PD.
Something, yeah.
And it was the same kind of characters. I think he was in it.
I guess it must have been because Bill Cosby was definitely already known before he got that show. He was like already known as like a stand-up comedian. He did that cartoon, Fat Albert, which you probably also have never heard of.
Oh, I don't know. No, I guess not. No.
I think because he was already known, they're like, oh, let's draw people in by naming it his name. You know?
Cosby, and his name was like something different in it, you know. And it's like the Cosby Show, you know. His name was Huxtable or something.
The Huxtables.
The Huxtables. It was just like the Cosby Show. It's like, why call it by the actor's name? You know, it's like, you know, it's their names are different. Why not call it something different?
Well, like I just said, I think it's just to draw people in because they already know who Bill Cosby is.
I guess so.
They must have already known who Andy Griffith was. I don't know what he was in before.
Radio,
he was in the Andy
maybe.
Griffith show. Maybe something.
Something, yeah.
Yeah.
And that ran from 60 to 68, and then you know, Mayberry PD, but you know, it's and the Dick Van Dyke Show. You know, obviously he was known.
Yeah.
And
because he was
something completely. He wasn't even Dick in it.
Dick. No, he wasn't. Oh God. Oh, what's his name now?
Andy, probably something.
Rob.
Yeah.
Oh, Rob.
And of course, you know, his wife was played by Mary Tyler Moore.
Yeah.
Who got her own show called The Mary Tyler Moore Show. And she was probably not even Mary Tyler Moore in it. No. But that was more like a sketch.
I think she was Mary, but I can't remember what her last name was. No, it wasn't a sketch show. It was a sitcom.
Oh, was it?
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was sketches. Oh, I don't know. But yeah, like, you know, they do these sitcom things, and they you know, they're still trying to keep it's an old-fashioned kind of like
That's funny. I never thought about that. They don't do that in Britain. Name a show after a famous person.
You know, like, for example, Only Fools and Horses, David Jason. He was kind of known.
Think about somebody who was already known. Richard Wilson was probably already known before One Foot in the Grave. No,
not really. He was a bit part. He was in like sitcoms and stuff, but you know, that's the thing in Britain. People aren't really a household name. It's that bloke off the telly.
Yeah.
You know. That's you know, like the next James Bond's going to be that bloke off the telly. You know, it's like that's how people recognize. That bloke off the telly, innit? And so,
I mean, Dick Van Dyke was already known. Again, I that's why they've done it. You know, Dick Van Dyke was already known. He was a like vaudeville and you know.
Well, I mean, he'd done Disney and stuff, and he'd done Mary.
I don't know if he had before the show.
Didn't that start in like 65?
Not sure.
Oh, maybe it started in the early 60s. I don't know. But yeah, anyway, the Dick Van Dyke Show. It was like, because Dick Van Dyke is in it.
Yeah.
But it's like he's playing this guy, and you know, it's just like that classic.
Yeah, I can't remember their last name. His name was Rob, anyway.
But yeah, the next one I've got on the list is the Brady Bunch.
Oh, really?
From 1969 to 74.
Funny.
The Brady Bunch, yeah.
I would have thought just because you're so into like the 60s, 60s and 70s that you would have heard of it at least.
No.
Huh, that's funny.
I mean, the Brady Bunch, you know, never heard of the Jeffersons is another one.
Oh, yeah.
1975 to 85. I mean, the Jeffersons was an offshoot of All in the Family, wasn't it?
These are all quite classics.
Yeah, I mean, these are the classics, not like anything. Well, I mean, there's nothing really, really recent, but yeah. Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, that's funny.
Never heard of that before I came. Never heard of him or the show before I came, because everybody said, "Oh, Mr. Rogers, Mr. Rogers." It's like, what did you watch on TV? Did you watch Mr. Rogers? No. It's like, because, you know, we had our own stuff. You
watch Sooty.
Sooty! Yeah, no one's ever heard of Sooty over here. And Sooty is like a legend. And he's still alive. The Golden Girls.
Really?
Yes, you had that on every night when I first came here. You were loving it. Thank you for being a friend.
Look, I don't sing that. We'll get copyright.
Yeah. And you're just like...
yeah.
And you were like, "Oh, this is the greatest show."
I go through periods, you know, sometimes where I'm like in the mood to watch one of these like old shows and reruns. It's like, okay, I'm gonna watch. They're showing these reruns every night, so I'm gonna watch that. And then you just get you get where you've seen every episode then, and they're just replaying them some more. And then you're just like, okay, I'm done with that now, you know.
And I mean, that was probably showing on Channel 4.
Yeah, I would think that would have been a show that.
I mean, all of this, I mean, yeah, I mean, maybe not the Andy Griffith Show or anything like that, you know, but,
No, I mean, I can see Gunsmoke, Andy Griffith, Brady Bunch, Jeffersons, Mr. Rogers. I can see none of them
really
being shown in Britain.
Yeah.
But Golden Girls seems like right up British people's alley.
Yeah, no, it's
And
about...
then I Love Lucy was just
oddly
so
a show
huge.
about old people that's over here, because Britain does that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, One Foot in the Grave was it, but it was a bit more
they
dark
used
humor.
to. I mean, you don't really...
No, it's mostly about young people now, or like, you know, I mean, times have changed. I mean,
Mostly
it's,
just murders.
Murders, cop shows.
Detective shows.
Detective shows and soaps.
Yeah, British people love that. Love a good murder.
Cheers is the next one.
Oh, yeah.
I never heard of Cheers. Heard of Frasier, the offshoot show.
That's
been
so weird.
Frasier was huge.
They must have shown Cheers then.
They must have shown Cheers, yeah, but I just do not remember
Mm-hmm.
it at all.
Yeah.
And I think I even asked a friend of mine who was a big fan of Frasier. I said, "Oh, did you ever see? Oh, we watched Cheers. It's where the character came from." And he was like, "Nah,
Yeah.
never seen it. You know, I never
so
seen."
funny. I think that I've heard talk that they're going to revive his character. Like he's going to play him a third time. They're going to make a new show.
A reunion?
No, they're just going to make a new show for him. That's going to be like, what is Frasier doing now? I think. Whatever, you know, he's not doing his radio show anymore.
Yeah,
I guess. I think I've heard that. I might just be making that up.
They're probably talking about like, oh yeah, what are we gonna do for Kelsey Grammer next? The Kelsey Grammer show.
But Cheers again seems just like a show that you guys would have possibly gotten, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it was set in a bar, and oddly enough, right, the amount of pubs that there are in Britain, you never get that. I mean, every sitcom in Britain features a pub.
Yeah.
That the characters go to.
Yeah.
Like for Only Fools and Horses, it was the Nag's Head. Men Behaving Badly had a pub too.
Isn't there one in like Coronation Street or something?
Oh
like
yeah, and all the soaps have a pub too.
Yeah.
That's probably a trivia question. Is like name all the soaps pubs, and Coronation Street's Rover's Return. Emmerdale is the Wool Pack.
Yeah.
EastEnders is the Queen Victoria, the Queen Vic.
But there's not just one show that's like
set in a pub.
Like,
yeah, because I mean, some of the action takes place in the pub.
Yeah.
But it's like, so it's kind of like they're part of the character anyway, but it's like it's not about running a pub, and it's like that is the strangest bloody thing.
Yeah.
Considering,
really weird.
Because
the long history of like pub culture in Britain. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it has, and it just never took off. And
that's an idea, isn't it? Because pubs are kind of dying out in Britain. Yeah. It's like somebody needs to write a show that's set in a pub, and maybe it'll like
set in a
pick
pub
back
in the
up,
90s. Yeah.
Why in the 90s?
Because I mean, pubs today kind of like they've kind of everybody's talking about pubs. They've died off.
Okay.
And they're doing food.
Okay, you write your show set in the 90s.
Or even the 80s.
Maybe you'll revive British pub culture. You know, maybe the pubs will come back. Because I think that I just don't ever see them like going away totally. Like they're going to be like apparently red phone boxes
the local in my that we used to go to in
Wales.
In Wales is reopened.
Oh, is it?
So yeah,
oh, okay.
So it's back.
Yeah, I mean, tourists, especially from America, they want to go to a pub, you know.
And they want to eat fish and chips.
That's what I was going to say. They want to go to a pub, and they want to order fish and chips. So, I mean, they're going to be like red phone boxes, and... I
mean, if the pubs go, what has Britain got left? Really?
There's your negativity coming out.
The next one is Seinfeld.
Yeah, we've talked about that before.
Yeah, I'd never watched, but apparently it was obviously shown because people were like, oh yeah, and I'm pretty sure
Seinfeld.
Love Seinfeld, but I never heard of it before. Coming over here, and I was like, I used to call it Seinfeld, and I was like, you're saying that right, Seinfeld, right? Seinfeld.
Seinfeld, yeah.
Yeah. Jerry Seinfeld.
And that was his name.
That was his name. There you go. Yeah, but he was playing himself. He was playing a fictional version of himself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So he kind of popularized that genre because, I mean, people do that all the time now.
Do they?
Play fictional versions of themselves.
I guess.
Like Ricky Gervais popularized it with extras too.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, get a celebrity in to play a fictionalized version of himself.
Yeah.
Married with Children.
Oh god, you're not missing anything with that one.
That was another one I'd never heard of before coming over here. And Mad About You and all that.
Oh, yeah. Mad About You was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, those that's the list of things that I never heard of. The rest I'd probably heard of, seen.
There's probably more. Maybe we could do a part 2 to this. You'll have to dig a bit deeper.
Dig a bit deeper, maybe. And
but those are all really huge. I mean, they were huge shows in America. So yeah, it is a little bit surprising that you hadn't heard of those particularly. But yeah. Golden Girls, God. You would have thought you would have at least heard of Golden Girls.
No.
Like, maybe never seen it.
No, I never seen it. I never heard of it. And then when I went back because it was the first trip over, I went back to the UK, and I think I saw like the season DVDs in like the shop, and I was like, oh, it must have come on over here then. I just wasn't looking out for it. Dun, 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 dun. Little transition music. So there you go. There's our transition music for you. You know.
Yeah. Feel free to send in television shows to ask Dominic if he had ever heard of them, and maybe it'll trigger some sort of memory that. Yeah.
Like Kenan and Kel and all that, right? You know, like all those kind of like shows.
All the like Nickelodeon
shows. Well, I mean Rugrats and all that kind of stuff.
You didn't have Rugrats?
Yeah. No, I'm saying that's what I'd heard of, and you were like all surprised
like
that I heard.
All that. This is all that. I've got to quit singing.
No, I don't know.
Oh, copyright's a nightmare. Anyway.
Yep. Get flagged for it all the time, mate.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We appreciate your support as always. Be sure to check us out on social media. We are at TButty, TEABUTTY on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And we will talk to you next time.
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye.